Do-hyun spent his first night aboard the alien ship, mapping the corridors and trying to understand the basic layout. The vessel was like a metal city floating in space, with levels upon levels of rooms and passages. Everything was built for beings, much taller than humans, forcing him to climb up to reach control panels and squeeze through doorways designed for larger frames. The walls seemed alive somehow. They curved and flowed like water frozen in time, covered with patterns that might have been decoration or circuit boards. When he touched certain sections, they glowed softly with blue-green light. The ship responded to his presence as if it knew he was there. He found what appeared to be the main engineering section on the lower levels. The room was enormous, filled with towering columns that pulsed with dim energy. These had to be the power cores that Chief Engineer Choi had mentioned. They were barely functioning, providing just enough energy to keep the life support systems running. Do-hyun set up his portable workstation and began scanning the alien technology with his instruments. The readings made no sense at first. The power systems operated on principles he had never seen before. Instead of simple electrical circuits, the ship used something that looked like a combination of electronics and biology. The conduits that carried power throughout the ship resembled blood vessels more than wires. They branched and divided, carrying energy to different systems through pathways that seemed to grow and adapt. When one section was damaged, others would slowly expand to take over its function. It was beautiful and completely alien. As he worked, Do-hyun became aware of a faint sound coming from somewhere deeper in the engineering section. It was rhythmic, like breathing, but with an electronic quality that made his skin crawl. He followed the sound through a maze of corridors until he found its source. In a small chamber filled with monitoring equipment, a single alien lay connected to dozens of cables and tubes. Unlike the others in the sleeping pods, this being was partially awake. Its large eyes tracked Do-hyun's movement as he entered the room. The alien was tall and thin like the others, but its pale blue skin was marked with silver lines that pulsed with the same rhythm as the breathing sound. These lines connected to ports in the walls, making the being part of the ship itself. When Do-hyun approached, the alien's eyes widened with what might have been fear or surprise. It tried to speak, but only a weak whistling sound came from its throat. Then the walls around them began to glow, and symbols appeared on nearby surfaces. The symbols moved and changed, forming patterns that Do-hyun slowly realized were attempts at communication. The alien was using the ship's systems to talk to him. He pulled out his tablet and began recording the symbols. After several minutes, some of them started to repeat. The alien was teaching him basic concepts, starting with simple ideas like numbers and directions. The process was slow and exhausting for both of them. The alien seemed to be using enormous effort just to stay conscious and communicate through the ship's systems. Do-hyun worked carefully, trying not to tire his new teacher too much. By the end of the second day, they had established basic communication. The alien's name was something that sounded like Rixel when filtered through the ship's translation attempts. She was what humans might call an engineer, someone who maintained the connection between the living crew and the ship's mechanical systems. Rixel explained through symbols and simple concepts that her people were called the Veltar. They had been fighting a long war against an enemy she called the Destroyers. These were machines that consumed everything in their path, turning entire star systems into more machines. The Veltar fleet had been defeated in a massive battle. Their ship was one of the few survivors, limping away with its crew in emergency sleep, while Rixel remained partially awake to keep the systems running. But her strength was failing, and soon she would have to enter deep sleep like the others. When that happened, the ship would die, and everyone aboard would die with it. Do-hyun studied the ship's power systems with new urgency. Through Rixel, he learned that Veltar technology was based on growth and adaptation rather than simple construction. Their ships were partly alive, able to heal minor damage and adjust to new situations. But this ship was too badly hurt to heal itself. The main power cores had been damaged beyond the ship's ability to repair. Without them, the backup systems would fail within days. The Veltar solution would be to grow new power cores, a process that took months and required resources they did not have. Do-hyun needed to find a different approach, something the Veltar had never considered. He began studying how human fusion reactors worked compared to Veltar power systems. Human technology was simpler but more flexible. Where the Veltar built systems to last forever, humans built them to be repaired and modified. The breakthrough came when Do-hyun realized he might be able to connect human power sources to the Veltar bio-neural networks. It would be like giving the ship a heart transplant using a completely different type of heart. Rixel was fascinated by the idea, but also worried. No one had ever tried to mix Veltar and alien technology. The ship's living systems might reject human components, or worse, the integration might damage the neural networks that connected the crew to their vessel. But they had no other choice. Do-hyun contacted Commander Park and explained what he needed: human fusion reactors, power converters, and specialized tools that could work with Veltar biosystems. The commander was skeptical, but agreed to help when she understood the stakes. While waiting for supplies, Do-hyun and Rixel worked together to map the ship's neural pathways. She guided him through systems that no human had ever seen, teaching him to read the bioelectrical patterns that controlled everything from life support to navigation. The work was dangerous for Rixel. Each time she interfaced with the ship's systems, she grew weaker. The silver lines on her skin faded a little more, and her responses became slower. But she continued teaching, sharing knowledge that had taken her people centuries to develop. She showed him how Veltar engineers thought about problems, how they approached repairs not as fixes, but as opportunities for the ship to grow stronger. By the end of the week, Do-hyun had learned more about alien technology than any human in history. He understood how the ship breathed, how it thought, how it felt pain when its systems were damaged, and he had a plan to save it. The fusion reactors arrived from the station along with a team of technicians who could help with the installation. But as they prepared to begin the dangerous work of integrating human and Veltar technology, Rixel's condition took a turn for the worse. Her connection to the ship was failing. Soon she would have to choose between entering deep sleep to save her own life or staying awake long enough to help Do-hyun complete the repairs. She chose to stay awake. In her final conscious moments, Rixel did something unprecedented. She opened a direct neural link with Do-hyun, downloading critical system information directly into his human brain. The process was agony for both of them, but when it was over, Do-hyun carried within his mind the knowledge of how to speak to the ship itself. As Rixel slipped into emergency stasis, Do-hyun found himself alone again aboard the vast alien vessel. But now he was not just a human engineer trying to fix a broken machine. He was something new, someone who could think like both a human and a Veltar. The real work was about to begin. The coffee in Kang Do-hyun's cup had gone cold hours ago. He sat alone in the maintenance bay of Frontier Station Omega-7, surrounded by the quiet hum of machinery and the distant stars visible through the observation windows. The night shift was always peaceful on the remote station. Most of the crew slept while Do-hyun worked on repairs and system checks. He was a thin man in his early 30s with calloused hands and tired eyes. His work clothes were stained with grease and coolant from the dozens of ships that passed through their station each month. Mining vessels, cargo haulers, and passenger transports all needed maintenance out here on the edge of human space. Do-hyun loved the quiet of the night shift. No supervisors breathing down his neck, no urgent repair requests from impatient captains. Just him and the machines working together in comfortable silence. He understood machines better than people anyway. They were logical, predictable, honest about their problems. The communication panel chirped softly, breaking his concentration. He glanced at the display and saw an incoming message from the sensor array. Probably another asteroid or piece of space junk drifting through their sector. He touched the panel to acknowledge the alert. What he saw made him sit up straight and nearly spill his cold coffee. The long-range sensors showed something massive approaching their position. 3 kilometers long, half a kilometer wide, moving slowly through space without any active propulsion. The computer identified it as an unknown vessel, unlike anything in their databases. Do-hyun stared at the readout. In 15 years of working on frontier stations, he had never seen anything like this. The ship was enormous, larger than the biggest human battleships. Its hull showed signs of severe damage, with sections torn open and dark scorch marks across its surface. He activated the emergency communication system, sending an alert to Commander Park Ji-soo. Within minutes, the commander's voice crackled. Through the speakers. Do-hyun, what do you have for me? Commander, you need to see this, Do-hyun replied, his voice steady despite his excitement. We have an unidentified vessel approaching our position. It's big, damaged, and not responding to any communication attempts. How big? 3 kilometers long, Commander, and it's not human. A long pause filled the communication channel. Then Commander Park's voice returned, sharper now. I'm on my way to the bridge. Keep monitoring and send me everything you have. Do-hyun spent the next hour gathering data on the mysterious ship. The vessel moved in a straight line, its course taking it directly past their station. No energy signatures from weapons or shields, no response to their radio calls. It was drifting like a piece of debris, but debris didn't come in 3-kilometer packages with obvious signs of advanced construction. The ship's hull was made of some kind of dark metal that absorbed most sensor scans. What little information they could gather suggested internal compartments, power systems, and what might be crew quarters, but everything appeared to be offline or running on minimal power. Commander Park arrived in the maintenance bay with 2 security officers. She was a compact woman with short black hair and the kind of alert eyes that came from years of military service. She studied the sensor displays with growing amazement. First contact protocol, she said quietly. We're looking at an alien vessel. The security officers exchanged glances. First contact was something they had trained for but never expected to experience on a remote maintenance station. Earth Command had procedures for this situation, but those procedures assumed the aliens would be alive and communicating. Any signs of life aboard? Commander Park asked. Do-hyun pointed to several readings on his display. Minimal power signatures from what might be life support systems. The ship is cold, almost at background temperature, but there are small heat sources scattered throughout the interior. Crew in hibernation, maybe? That would be my guess, Commander. The damage suggests they were in a battle and went into some kind of emergency sleep mode. Commander Park made her decision quickly. Prepare a boarding party. Full environmental suits, recording equipment, and minimal weapons. We're going to take a look. The boarding party consisted of Commander Park, Chief Engineer Choi Woo-jin, Security Officer Han So-young, and Dr. Kim Jae-min from the medical bay. Do-hyun watched their shuttle approach the alien vessel through the external cameras. The ship was even more impressive up close. Its hull was covered in intricate patterns that might have been decorative or functional. Weapon ports were visible along its sides, all dark and inactive. The boarding party found an airlock that had been damaged in whatever battle the ship had survived. We're inside, Commander Park's voice came through the communication system. Artificial gravity is working, and there's a breathable atmosphere, though it's thin. The corridors are huge, built for beings much larger than humans. Dr. Kim's voice joined the transmission. Temperature is cold but not freezing. There are strange sounds coming from deeper in the ship, like mechanical breathing. They spent 2 hours exploring the vessel's upper levels. The ship was a masterpiece of engineering, with curved corridors and organic-looking technology that seemed to grow from the walls. Everything was built on a grand scale, suggesting the ship's builders were much larger than humans. The most important discovery came when they found the crew quarters. Hundreds of pod-like chambers filled several large rooms, each one containing a single alien being in what appeared to be suspended animation. The aliens were tall and slender, with pale blue skin and elongated limbs. They wore form-fitting suits that seemed to monitor their vital signs. "They're alive," Dr. Kim reported. "Barely, but alive. These pods are keeping them in some kind of emergency stasis." Chief Engineer Choi Woo-jin examined the ship's power systems. "The main engines are dead, and most of the power grid is offline. These life support pods are running on backup power that won't last much longer, maybe days, possibly less." Commander Park made the difficult decision to return to the station. They had documented the discovery and confirmed that the aliens were alive, but they lacked the expertise to help them. Earth Command would need to send specialists, and that would take weeks. As the boarding party prepared to leave, Do-hyun made a request that surprised everyone. "Commander, I want to stay." "Absolutely not," she replied immediately. "We don't know anything about these aliens or their technology. Those beings are going to die if someone doesn't figure out how to repair their ship," Do-hyun said calmly. "I'm the best engineer on this station. Maybe I can help." "It's too dangerous." "Everything's dangerous out here," Do-hyun replied. "But this is important. When was the last time humanity had a chance to help another species? When was the last time we found someone who needed what we could offer?" Commander Park studied him for a long moment. She knew Do-hyun's reputation as an engineer. He could repair anything, often with nothing more than spare parts and determination. If anyone could help these aliens, it would be him. "You'll have a direct communication link to the station," she said finally. "Any sign of danger, and we pull you out immediately." Do-hyun nodded and gathered his tools. As the boarding party's shuttle departed, he stood alone in the vast alien corridor, surrounded by technology beyond human understanding, and the weight of hundreds of lives depending on his skills. The ship hummed quietly around him, and somewhere, in the distance, he could hear the mechanical breathing of the life support systems keeping the alien crew alive. He had work to do. The knowledge in Do-hyun's head felt like a constant whisper. After Rixel had transferred her memories to him, he could sense the ship's condition in ways no human should be able to understand. He felt its pain where systems had failed, its slow struggle to keep the crew alive, its growing weakness as power reserves drained away. 3 days had passed since Rixel entered emergency sleep. The fusion reactors from Frontier Station sat in the cargo bay, waiting to be installed. But every time Do-hyun looked at them, he felt the ship's uncertainty through their neural connection. The vessel did not understand these human machines, and what the ship did not understand, it might reject. Back on the station, Commander Park faced her own problems. Admiral Lee Min-ji had arrived from Earth Command with 2 military ships and very different ideas about how to handle the alien vessel. "This is the greatest technological discovery in human history," Admiral Lee said during the briefing. "We should be studying every system, every component. Instead, you have one engineer, playing doctor with alien technology." Commander Park stood her ground. "That engineer is keeping hundreds of alien beings alive. The ship's power is failing. Without repairs, everyone aboard will die." "Then we evacuate the survivors and study the ship properly," the Admiral replied, coldly. "Earth needs these weapons, Commander. We need their technology. A few alien lives cannot outweigh humanity's security. We promised to help them. You promised." Earth Command made no such agreement. The argument continued for hours, but Admiral Lee held all the authority. She ordered Commander Park to recall Do-hyun immediately and prepare the alien ship for military inspection. The Veltar crew would be moved to medical facilities on Earth for study. When Commander Park tried to contact Do-hyun to relay the orders, she found that he had disabled his communication system. A message waited in the station's computer, recorded hours earlier. "Commander, I know what Earth Command wants to do. I cannot let that happen. These people trusted us to help them, not to steal their technology while they sleep. I am going to repair their ship with or without official support. Do not try to stop me." Commander Park stared at the message for a long time. Then she made a decision that would probably end her military career. "Chief Wu Jin," she called to the station's head engineer, "I need you to gather some supplies for an unauthorized mission." Chief Engineer Choi Wu Jin was a quiet man who had worked with Do-hyun for 5 years. He understood machines almost as well as his younger colleague, and he understood loyalty even better. "What does he need?" Wu Jin asked without hesitation. "Everything we can spare. Power cells, tools, raw materials, food, medical supplies, and I need you to find a way to get them to him without Admiral Lee knowing." Wu Jin smiled grimly. "I have some ideas." Aboard the alien ship, Do-hyun worked with desperate efficiency. Through his connection with the vessel, he could feel time running out. The backup power systems were failing faster than expected. He had perhaps 2 days before the life support systems shut down completely. The fusion reactors were powerful enough to save the ship, but integrating them with Veltar bio-neural networks remained an impossible challenge. Human technology used, simple electrical connections and computer controls. Veltar systems required living interfaces that could grow and adapt. Do-hyun spent hours studying the problem from every angle. He walked through the ship's corridors, feeling its distress through the neural link Rixel had created. The vessel wanted to live, wanted to protect its crew, but it did not know how to accept help from alien technology. The solution came to him while he was eating a ration pack in the ship's central command area. He was surrounded by Veltar control, systems that pulsed with faint bioelectric energy, dying slowly as power drained away. Suddenly, he understood what he had been missing. He did not need to make human technology work like Veltar systems. He needed to teach the ship how to use human technology. Do-hyun rushed back to the engineering section and began working with frantic energy. Instead of trying to connect the fusion reactors directly to the ship's power grid, he would create a translation interface. The ship's bio-neural networks would learn to communicate with human computers, which would then control the fusion reactors. It was still incredibly dangerous. No one had ever attempted to merge 2 completely different technological approaches. The neural networks might be damaged by the foreign electrical patterns, or the fusion reactors might overload when connected to living systems. But it was their only chance. A supply pod arrived from the station in the middle of his work. Chief Wu Jin had managed to send tools and materials without Admiral Lee discovering the shipment. Along with the supplies came a message from Commander Park. "Earth Command wants to seize the ship in 12 hours. Whatever you're going to do it fast." Do-hyun worked through the night, building the interface systems that would allow human and Veltar technology to work together. He used every trick he had learned in 15 years of engineering, combining salvaged components with alien biocircuits in ways that should not have been possible. The ship helped as much as it could. Through their neural connection, it showed him which systems were most critical, which pathways could handle the integration process. The vessel's artificial intelligence was primitive compared to human computers, but it understood its own body, better than any outside observer ever could. As dawn approached on the station, Do-hyun completed the final connections. The fusion reactors sat in specially built cradles, connected to translation interfaces that bridged the gap between human machinery and Veltar biosystems. Cables and bioconduits wound through the engineering section like arteries in a living heart. Everything was ready except for one final crucial step. Someone needed to activate the system, and that someone needed to be directly connected to the ship's neural network during the startup process. If anything went wrong, the feedback could kill whoever was making the connection. Do-hyun did not hesitate. He placed his hands on the bio-neural interface panels and opened his mind to the ship's consciousness. Power flowed through the new systems like blood returning to a dying body. The fusion reactors came online smoothly, their energy flowing through the translation interfaces and into the ship's bioelectrical networks. For a moment, human and alien technology worked in perfect harmony. Then the ship's immune systems detected the foreign technology and began to reject it. Pain shot through Do-Yun's nervous system as the vessel's bio-networks fought against the human components. He felt the ship's confusion and fear as it struggled to understand what was happening to it. The translation interfaces began to overload, sparks flying from damaged circuits. But Do-Hyun held on, using the neural link to calm the ship's panic. Through the connection, he showed the vessel that the human technology was not an invasion, but a gift. The fusion reactors were not replacing Veltar systems, but supporting them, giving the ship the strength it needed to heal itself. Slowly, carefully, the ship's immune response calmed down. The bio-networks began to adapt, learning to work with the human components instead of fighting them. Power flowed steadily through the hybrid systems, bringing light and warmth back to corridors that had been dark for weeks. Do-Hyun collapsed as the neural link finally disconnected, his body exhausted from the integration process. But around him, the ship hummed with new life. The fusion reactors provided more power than the vessel had possessed even before the battle damage. The bio-neural networks, enhanced by human computer systems, operated with unprecedented efficiency. He had done the impossible. He had saved the ship and its crew by creating something entirely new, a hybrid of human and Veltar technology that was stronger than either could be alone. Now, he just had to hope he could convince Earth Command not to destroy what he had built. The ship sang to him now. Do-Hyun felt the vessel's contentment through their neural connection as he walked through corridors that glowed with steady blue-green light. The fusion reactors hummed deep in the engineering section, providing more power than the ship had known in months. Systems that had been shut down for weeks came back online one by one, but he knew their time was running out. Admiral Lee would arrive soon with orders to seize the ship, and she had the military authority to make it happen. Do-Hyun had saved the Veltar crew, but he might not be able to protect them from his own species. He was checking the life support systems when the ship's communication array detected an incoming shuttle. Through the vessel's sensors, he watched a small Earth Command craft approach the docking bay. The shuttle carried only one passenger, but Do-Hyun recognized the uniform through the ship's enhanced vision systems. Security officer Han So-Young had come to arrest him. So-Young was a serious woman in her late 20s who had served on Frontier Station for 2 years. She followed orders without question and believed strongly in military discipline. Do-Hyun had always respected her dedication, even when they disagreed about station policies. She entered the ship alone, wearing full environmental gear and carrying restraints for his arrest. But when she saw what he had accomplished, she stopped. In amazement, the corridor walls pulsed with healthy bioelectric patterns. The air was warm and clean, filled with the sound of properly functioning life support systems. Everything around them hummed with vitality and power. This was not the dying vessel she had visited weeks ago. "What did you do?" she asked through her helmet's communication system. "I fixed it," Do-Hyun replied simply. "The fusion reactors are online and integrated with their bio-neural networks. The ship is stronger now than it was before the battle." So-Young examined the hybrid systems with growing wonder. Where human technology met Veltar biocircuits, the integration was seamless. Power flowed through organic conduits that had learned to work with electronic components. Computer systems communicated with living networks in ways that should have been impossible. "Admiral Lee ordered me to arrest you and seize this ship for Earth Command," she said finally. "I know, but look at what we accomplished here. This is not just a repair. This is proof that humans and aliens can work together to create something better than either could build alone." As if responding to their conversation, the ship's artificial intelligence activated around them. Lights brightened, and symbols appeared on nearby surfaces. The vessel was trying to communicate, using the translation protocols Do-Hyun had developed with Rixel. The symbols formed patterns that gradually became recognizable words. The ship called itself Velthara, which meant Starheart in the Veltar language. It spoke slowly, carefully, as if learning to use human concepts for the first time. Do-Hyun human helped Velthara live, the ship said through glowing symbols on the walls. Velthara grateful. Human technology good for Velthara systems. So-Young stared at the messages in shock. She was witnessing the first conversation between a human and an artificial intelligence that was partly alive. The ship was not just a machine that could talk, but a living entity that had learned to think in new ways. The neural integration changed it, Do-Hyun explained. The ship's bio-networks merged with human computer systems. It can process information in ways that neither technology could achieve separately. Velthara continued to communicate, describing the battle that had nearly destroyed it. The ship's enemy was something called the Destroyers, mechanical beings that consumed entire star systems to build more of themselves. The Veltar had fought them for centuries before finally being overwhelmed. But Velthara had learned something important during the battle. The Destroyers could adapt to any predictable technology or tactic. They analyzed enemy weapons and defenses, then modified themselves to overcome any threat. This ability made them nearly unstoppable. The ship explained that Do-Hyun's repairs had given it something the Destroyers could never predict. Human intuition and problem-solving methods were completely different from Veltar approaches. The hybrid systems thought in ways that followed no established patterns. This might be the weapon we need to fight them, Velthara said through its symbols. Unpredictability, creativity, the human way of solving problems. So-Young listened to the ship's explanation with growing understanding. This was bigger than one repaired vessel or even first contact with an alien species. This was about the future of galactic civilization. She made a decision that surprised even herself. I came here to arrest you, she told Do-Hyun. But I think you may have just saved more than one species. Instead of placing him under arrest, So-Young helped Do-Hyun prepare for Admiral Lee's arrival. They worked together to document everything he had learned about Veltar technology and the integration process. If Earth Command was going to study the ship, they should at least understand what they were looking at. The Admiral arrived 6 hours later with a full boarding party and orders to take control of the vessel. She was a stern woman in her 50s who had spent her career preparing humanity for potential alien threats. Finding aliens who needed help instead of presenting a danger did not fit her worldview. This ship will be taken to Earth for proper study, she announced as her team spread through the corridors. The alien crew will be transferred to medical facilities where they can receive appropriate care. Admiral, with respect, moving them could kill them, Do-Hyun said. The crew is integrated with the ship's biosystems. They are not just sleeping in those pods. They are part of the vessel itself. Admiral Lee was not interested in technical explanations. She had her orders from Earth Command, and those orders did not include leaving advanced alien technology in the hands of a frontier station engineer. But when her technical team tried to access the ship's computer systems, they discovered something unexpected. The vessel would only respond to Do-Hyun. The hybrid bio-neural networks recognized him as their primary operator, and they refused to work for anyone else. What did you do to this ship? Admiral Lee demanded. I saved it, Do-Hyun replied. And it saved me. We are connected now. The ship trusts me because I proved that humans want to help, not just take. Velthara confirmed this through its wall displays, explaining that the neural link with Do-Hyun had created a permanent bond. The ship understood human intentions through his mind, and it had decided that humanity could be trusted as allies. Admiral Lee found herself in an impossible situation. She could take the ship by force, But without Do-hyun's cooperation, it would be just a dead hulk filled with incomprehensible technology. The real value lay in the working partnership between human and Veltar systems. As she considered her options, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Long-range sensors had detected something approaching their position at incredible speed. The signature matched the destroyer scouts that Velthara had described. The enemy had found them. "Admiral," Do-hyun said quietly, "I think we are about to discover whether this hybrid technology can really make a difference against the destroyers." The ship began powering up its weapon systems, and for the first time in months, Velthara prepared for battle. But this time, it would fight with the unpredictable creativity of human engineering supporting its Veltar precision. The real test was about to begin. The destroyer scout ship was still 3 hours away when Velthara made an announcement that changed everything. Crew awakening now possible, the ship's symbols declared across multiple wall displays. Power sufficient for revival process. Crew needed for battle preparations. Admiral Lee stared at the message. "Can we wake them safely?" Do-hyun felt the ship's confidence through their neural link. The fusion reactors provided more than enough power for the revival systems, and the hybrid bio-networks could monitor each crew member during the delicate awakening process. Velthara says yes, but the process will take time. The crew has been in emergency sleep for months. Their bodies need careful preparation before they can function normally. "How long?" Admiral Lee asked. 2 hours for the senior officers, longer for the rest of the crew. The Admiral made her decision quickly. Earth Command protocols could wait. If they were about to face an enemy that had defeated entire alien civilizations, they needed every advantage they could get. The revival process began in the command section, where the ship's senior officers had been sleeping in specially designed pods. Do-hyun monitored the bio readings while Velthara carefully warmed their bodies and stimulated their nervous systems. The first to wake was Captain Nithara, a tall figure with pale blue skin marked by intricate silver patterns. She opened large, dark eyes and looked around the command chamber with confusion. When she saw Do-hyun, her expression changed to alarm. "Human," she said in accented but clear English. The ship's translation systems had learned the language during its time connected to Do-hyun's mind. "My name is Do-hyun. I repaired your ship," he said carefully. "You have been asleep for months." Captain Nithara sat up slowly, her long limbs trembling with weakness. Through the neural link, Do-hyun felt the ship trying to explain what had happened to its captain. The conversation took place through bioelectric signals too complex for human understanding. The captain's eyes widened as she learned about the hybrid systems. She looked at Do-hyun with what might have been anger or amazement. "You contaminated our ship with alien technology," she said finally. "I saved your ship with human technology," Do-hyun replied. "Without the fusion reactors, everyone would have died." More crew members were awakening now. Sub-Commander Kixoth emerged from his pod with the fluid grace of a natural warrior. Navigator Yithal moved more slowly, her pale features showing the strain of extended sleep. Chief Engineer Velkan examined the command displays with growing wonder. Each crew member reacted differently to learning about the human modifications. Some were grateful for their survival. Others were concerned about the integrity of their technology. But all of them could feel that their ship was stronger than it had been before the battle. Captain Nithara spent an hour reviewing the ship's status through direct neural interface. She experienced the hybrid systems firsthand, feeling how human and Veltar technology had learned to work together. When she disconnected, her attitude toward Do-hyun had changed completely. "You did not just repair our ship," she said with something like awe. "You improved it. The power efficiency is higher than our original specifications. The bio-neural networks process information faster than ever before." Sub-Commander Kixoth tested the weapon systems and discovered even more dramatic improvements. The hybrid targeting computers combined Veltar precision with human pattern recognition, creating accuracy levels that exceeded both technologies working separately. "These targeting solutions are impossible," he reported to the captain. "The computer systems predict enemy movements using methods I have never seen." Navigator Yethal found that the sensor arrays could now detect signatures that had been invisible before. The ship could identify destroyer technology at ranges that would give them precious additional warning time, but the most important discovery came from Chief Engineer Velkan. The integration process had created new possibilities for ship modifications and repairs. Systems that had been damaged beyond Veltar ability to fix were now repairable using human techniques. "This changes everything," Velkan told Captain Nithara, privately. "Our people always believed that technology must follow established patterns. These humans think differently. They see solutions where we see only problems." Dr. Kim Jamin arrived from Frontier Station as the revival process continued. The human doctor worked alongside Veltar medical officers to help crew members adjust to awakening after months in emergency sleep. The cooperation between human and alien medical knowledge led to faster recovery times than either species had achieved alone. Security Officer Han So-young coordinated with Veltar security personnel to prepare defenses against the approaching destroyer scout. The aliens were amazed by human tactical flexibility, while the humans learned from Veltar strategic experience. As more crew members awakened, the ship filled with activity. Veltar engineers worked alongside human technicians to optimize the hybrid systems. The two species discovered that their different approaches to problem-solving created solutions neither could develop independently, but tensions remained. Some Veltar crew members struggled to accept that their pure technology had been mixed with alien components. A few humans from Admiral Lee's team worried about sharing advanced knowledge with unknown aliens. The crisis came when Chief Engineer Velkan attempted to modify one of the fusion reactors without consulting Do-Yun. The Veltar engineer tried to improve the human technology using traditional bio-integration methods. The reactor nearly exploded. Do-Yun felt the ship's pain as the hybrid systems rejected the unauthorized modification. He rushed to the engineering section and found Velkan unconscious, overwhelmed by neural feedback from the failed integration attempt. "The systems are bonded to me," Do-Yun explained to Captain Nithara as medical teams treated the injured engineer. "The ship learned to trust human technology through our neural connection. It will not accept modifications from anyone else without my approval." Captain Nithara studied him carefully. In Veltar culture, the person who could speak to a ship's deepest systems held a position of enormous respect and responsibility. "You are the ship singer," she said finally, using a title that had no direct translation, "the one who gives the vessel its voice." The formal recognition changed Do-Hyun's status aboard the ship. He was no longer just a human engineer who had helped them. He was a full member of the crew with responsibilities for the hybrid systems that kept everyone alive. As the destroyer scout drew closer, Captain Nithara made her final preparations for battle. But this would not be a normal engagement. For the first time in centuries, a Veltar ship would fight with the unpredictable creativity of human innovation, supporting its natural precision. The enemy would face something they had never encountered before: technology that refused to follow predictable patterns. "All crew to battle stations," Captain Nithara announced. "Today we discover if the human way of thinking can defeat an enemy that adapts to everything." Through the ship's neural networks, Do-Hyun felt the crew's mixture of hope and fear. They had been running from the destroyers for so long that victory seemed impossible. But the hybrid systems gave them something new: the element of surprise. The destroyer scout emerged from hyperspace directly ahead of them, its dark hull bristling with adaptive weapons. But this time, it faced a ship that thought in ways no machine could predict. The battle that would determine the future of both species was about to begin. The destroyer scout was unlike anything humans had ever seen. 300 meters of dark metal that seemed to absorb light itself, covered with weapon ports that shifted and changed as they watched. The machine ship moved with predatory grace, studying its targets with sensors that adapted to counter any defense. "It is analyzing our systems," Sub-Commander Kixoth reported from the weapons station. "The destroyer is learning our capabilities and modifying its approach." Captain Nithara felt the familiar dread that every Veltar experienced when facing these machines. For centuries, her people had watched the destroyers adapt to every weapon, every tactic, every strategy they could devise. The machines learned faster than organic minds could innovate. But this time was different. "Do-Yun, can you feel what the ship is thinking?" the captain asked. Through the neural link, Do-Yun sensed Velthara's battle preparations. The hybrid systems were processing tactical information in ways that followed no standard patterns. Human intuition combined with Veltar precision created firing solutions that shifted randomly, making them impossible to predict. "The ship is ready," he reported. "The targeting systems are using human creativity algorithms. Every shot will be different from the last." The destroyer opened fire first, launching adaptive projectiles that modified themselves during flight. But Velthara's defensive systems responded with chaotic patterns that the machine could not analyze. Point defense weapons fired in sequences that made no logical sense, but somehow intercepted every incoming attack. Sub-Commander Kixoth stared at his displays in amazement. "These defensive patterns should not work. They violate basic tactical principles." "That is exactly why they do work," Captain Nithara realized. "The destroyer cannot adapt to tactics that have no underlying logic." Velthara returned fire with weapons that had been modified using human engineering principles. Instead of the precise, predictable energy beams that Veltar ships normally used, the hybrid systems created chaotic particle streams that changed frequency and intensity randomly. The destroyer's adaptive armor tried to adjust to the incoming fire, but every adaptation was wrong because the next shot was completely different from the previous one. For the first time in recorded history, destroyer technology failed to counter an enemy attack. The machine ship's hull cracked under impacts it could not deflect. But the battle was far from over. The destroyer began modifying its own systems, trying to develop responses to the unpredictable attacks. Its weapons shifted to area effect bombardments that could not be dodged regardless of defensive patterns. "It is learning," Navigator Ythal warned. "The machine is adapting to our new tactics." Do-Hyun felt the ship's concern through their neural connection. Velthara understood that the destroyer would eventually find ways to counter even chaotic patterns. They needed to end this fight quickly. "Can we board it?" he asked Captain Nithara. The captain looked at him in shock. "Board a destroyer ship? That is impossible. The machines have no crew quarters, no atmosphere, nothing that supports organic life." "But they have computer systems," Do-Hyun replied, "and I think I know how to introduce them to human-computer viruses." The plan was insane, but it was exactly the kind of unpredictable solution that might work against an adaptive enemy. While Velthara kept the destroyer occupied with chaotic weapons fire, a small boarding team would infiltrate the machine ship and plant human-computer viruses in its core systems. Admiral Lee volunteered to lead the boarding party. "This was my responsibility from the beginning," she said. "If we are going to risk human lives on an impossible plan, I should be the one taking that risk." Do-Hyun joined the boarding team along with Chief Engineer Choi Woo-jin and 2 Veltar technicians. They would have one chance to reach the destroyer's computer core before the machine realized what they were attempting. The boarding shuttle launched during the height of the battle, while both ships were fully engaged with each other. Velthara's chaotic weapon patterns provided cover as the small craft approached the destroyer's hull. The machine ship's surface was covered with defensive systems, but they were all designed to counter predictable attacks. The shuttle followed a flight path generated by human randomization algorithms, making movements that followed no pattern the destroyer could analyze. They docked with the machine ship through a maintenance port that had been damaged by Velthara's weapons. The interior was a maze of mechanical corridors filled with adaptive technology that shifted and changed as they watched. "Stay together," Admiral Lee ordered as they made their way toward the ship's core. "And remember, do nothing that follows a predictable pattern." The journey through the destroyer ship was like walking through the digestive system of a mechanical predator. Walls pulsed with adaptive sensors, and repair systems worked constantly to modify damaged components. Everything around them was designed to learn and counter any threat. But the boarding team moved like humans think, randomly, creatively, following hunches instead of logic. When the ship's defenses tried to predict their next move, they were always wrong. They reached the computer core after 20 minutes of chaotic navigation. The chamber was filled with processing units that seemed to think in patterns too complex for organic minds to follow. But Do-Yun had brought something the destroyer had never encountered: human computer viruses designed to spread chaos through logical systems. "These viruses are not weapons," he explained as he connected his equipment to the machine's network. "They are creativity algorithms. They will teach the destroyer's computers to think randomly." The upload took only minutes, but the effects were immediate. Throughout the destroyer ship, systems began behaving unpredictably. Weapons fired at random targets, sensors reported impossible readings, and navigation systems plotted courses that led nowhere. The machine intelligence tried to isolate the infected systems, but human viruses spread differently from anything it had encountered. Instead of following logical network pathways, they jumped randomly between components, infecting new systems in ways that could not be predicted. Within an hour, the entire destroyer ship was compromised. Its adaptive systems turned against each other as they tried to counter threats that existed only in their own confused programming. The machine ship shut down rather than risk complete system corruption. Back aboard Velthara, the crew watched in amazement as their ancient enemy simply stopped fighting and drifted powerless through space. "It is dead," Sub-Commander Kixoth reported with wonder. "The destroyer has completely shut down all systems." Captain Nithara felt something she had not experienced in decades: hope. The machine that had seemed unstoppable had been defeated by the chaotic creativity of human thinking. "This changes everything," she said to Admiral Lee as they examined the disabled destroyer. "Your people have shown us how to fight an enemy we thought was invincible." Admiral Lee nodded slowly. The political implications were enormous. Earth Command had wanted to study alien technology for military advantage, but this battle had proven something more important: humans and aliens working together could achieve what neither could accomplish alone. Over the following weeks, Frontier Station became the center of a new kind of cooperation. Human engineers worked with Veltar technicians to develop hybrid technologies that combine the best of both approaches: the chaotic creativity of human innovation merged with the precise efficiency of Veltar engineering. Do-Hyun found himself at the center of these developments, serving as translator between two completely different ways of thinking about technology. His neural link with Velthara had made him something unique: a human who could think like an alien, and an engineer who understood both logical precision and creative chaos. Captain Nithara officially inducted him into the Veltar fleet with the rank of ship singer, making him the first human to hold such a position. But more importantly, she proposed something that would reshape the future of both species. "We should build new ships together," she suggested to Admiral Lee. "Vessels designed from the beginning to use both human and Veltar technology. Ships that think in ways no enemy could ever predict." The first joint construction project began 6 months later. Human shipyards worked alongside Veltar bioforges to create vessels that were part machine, part living organism, and completely unpredictable. The new ships could adapt like Veltar technology, but innovate like human engineering. As the hybrid fleet grew, news of the destroyer defeat spread throughout the galaxy. Other species that had been hiding from the machine threat began to emerge. hoping that the human Veltar alliance might offer protection from ancient enemies. Do-hyun stood on the observation deck of the renamed ship Unity's Edge, watching construction crews work on the next generation of hybrid vessels. Through his neural link with the ship, he felt its contentment and excitement about the future. "What are you thinking?" Captain Nithara asked as she joined him at the viewing port. "I am thinking about how this all started," Do-hyun replied. "One dying ship, one human engineer, and the simple idea that helping someone is more important than taking advantage of them. Your people have given us something we lost long ago," the captain said. "The belief that there are always new solutions to old problems."